Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Learning Redefined online conference. It's our first online conference hosted by Showbie. My name is Abdul Chauhan. I'm the VP of Learning at Showbie. Just for those that don't know, Showbie is a hybrid learning platform. It's got over 3 million educators globally using it, provides very focused, richer and deeper feedback. It's very, very personalized for learners. And Showbie's been working with educators for over 10 years now, with lots of kind of really powerful partnerships and opportunities where kind of teachers, students, parents can benefit from. But today's session is really very much about inviting one of our esteemed speakers and school leaders, and someone that I've worked with in the past as well. So I'm just going to welcome Emma Overton. I'm quite excited about this particular session, not just the fact that it's the first one of the week that we're doing as a live session, but I know that Emma has always been a driver for change in education. She's impacted communities, certainly in the UK and in her current role as well. Not to kind of spend lots of time going through Emma's bio, but she's been a primary school teacher. She's been a head teacher for over 10 years. I know she was a head teacher in North Tyneside in the UK. She was a primary director for the North Tyneside Learning Trust, which is continuing to do really amazing things. That's a collaboration of over 40 schools. And I remember in 2017 when Emma told me she sold everything she has and she's moved to Spain to become a head teacher at the British School of Barcelona. So she's working with Cognita at the moment, which is kind of one of the largest international independent school groups. And she's been leading on the digital transformation journey there. So welcome, Emma.
Hi, Abdul. Thank you. Very nice. Welcome. Great to be with you guys. Thank you.
Great to have you with us. So tell me just a little bit about your kind of, I know I've mentioned a little bit about your career in education, but why education? What kind of drives you, motivates you? You've been an educator for a long time. You've been a leader for a long time. What's the driving factor?
I guess the main driving factor for me is around having the opportunity to influence so much change and really support children on their journey for their future. There's not many people who have such a privileged position, and we're really well placed to be able to do that in schools, I guess.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your current school, like, you know, the demographics. What is it? I remember kind of coming to your school, Stevenson Memorial, right, at the time. That where you are now is kind of different. So tell us a little bit about where you are now and what's that like?
Yeah, in terms of the demographics, just slightly different. I think it's probably fair to say that Stevenson Memorial, where I got my first headship, was in an area of deprivation, if you like, in North Tyneside, and therefore the demographics of which I've then jumped to in Barcelona to come to an independent international school couldn't be further from the opposite in the fact that our children pay to come to school here. They have, or our children don't, the families do, and they have a real kind of vested interest in their future and in their education. And the school in North Tyneside, it was just, you know, in terms of the teaching and learning, nothing's changed. Nothing is different about that. So the demographics have changed, but what we're trying to achieve with the children in the school, really nothing has changed, that the drivers still remain the same. You want the very best for them.
That's fantastic. That's great stuff. So with respect to technology, I know we've kind of collaborated on projects and so on in the past as well. As a leader, if you invest in technology, what are your expectations? What do you expect from that investment?
Okay, so I think you just need to map it out super carefully. I think your strategy is one of the most important things, and really to understand where you're going to make a difference within the school. So I believe there should be a real gradual integration of technology technology through the ages. I'm not a great believer in our younger students having lots of handheld devices or a lot of screen time for that matter. I'm all for making sure that when you have technology, it's the best technology, but actually it needs to be managed in such a way, particularly in early years. I think, you know, there should be sort of no more than 1 or 2 iPads within a setting. I think they should be out at a directed time. I don't think they should just be there as the go-to to babysit the children or for something to do when they're not focused on a learning task. I think they should be integral, and I'd be quite happy not to have screens at all in early years unless they were managed by a teacher, a member of staff. And then I guess for me, the journey then continues. So I think that your investment in technology should absolutely enhance what you've already got. I don't think you should bring it in and that will be the driver for change. I think the change should already be there, thinking from leaders around a creative curriculum, and I think they should all complement one another. When I go into the classrooms, I don't like to see that gratuitous use of technology, especially if you're having a lesson observation and you want to pull everything out the bag. I think the wiser teacher is the one that chooses when they should use it. So I really think all of this should be part of your digital strategy. And I guess moving into sort of key stage 1, I'd like to see the children grow their independence in the devices. Maybe not have a one-to-one device perhaps, but have the opportunity to work with the devices at set times, so we can give the children maybe an online space that they can grow their independence in, but not necessarily their own device. I really think there's a lot of learning to go ahead before that time. And then I just think really you grow it. You work with home, you work with school, and you grow it till, if you are in such a fortunate position where a child can have their own device, then we really should be developing that independence at about key stage 2. But my expectation for technology is that we have such a strong, rigid, robust digital safety curriculum that underpins it all. And I think that has to run through the heart of any digital strategy. I think so.
Fantastic. So let's just talk about the whole kind of COVID lockdown situation, you know, in terms of your school and where you were. What were your kind of, you know, what was that experience like from your perspective? And, you know, what are there kind of takeaways that you felt like, well, actually, this is something that we might need to address in the future for something like this or so on? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, we're very lucky actually, because here in Spain we had that initial lockdown when everyone else did in March. I think we were kind of 2 weeks ahead of you guys in the UK, and then we spent that whole entire summer term online. Then we were lucky enough to come back to school for 2 weeks. It led us into the summer holidays, and touch wood, we have been back since then. So our after COVID learning took place then at that time in September. We did a lot of reviews around what the experience was like from a child's perspective, from a teacher's perspective, from the parent's perspective. It was a really, really unsettling time for everybody. And I just, you'll know this yourself, it just wasn't ordinary and people didn't behave normally. So people's reaction to the situation was very different. And especially if you're a parent of a child who's in early years or key stage 1, you become the teacher. So therefore, there's a huge shift in your relationship with the parents as the class teacher. You almost become their counsellor. You're working together on this child's education, that your student and their child. So there was a real sort of sense of community spirit, I think, at that point. And we really did recognise that. But also people really rallying around to support each other. We had check-ins with the teachers. We had kind of quizzes every week with the teachers on a Thursday evening or a Friday evening at the end of the day. And I think we wanted to maintain that camaraderie. We didn't want to lose the momentum that gave us. And I'm being optimistic and positive here. There was so many downsides, but I don't think it's healthy to dwell on the downsides. I don't think it's necessary. As I say, people weren't necessarily thinking or behaving in a way that was normal, because it wasn't normal, and the amount of stresses people were under with their businesses, with their finances, it does have an adverse effect. But just keeping that community together. And our main thing was that constant review. We kept stopping, and you kind of could, as a leader, because you were in your home, and all we did was just met on a daily basis, and we were just constantly reviewing our offer, because we were straight into it. We didn't have devices for the children. Not all families had devices. We were not prepared for it as well as we thought we were. So but the takeaway is not to lose that momentum with the parents, I guess.
And did you feel like there were expectations from parents, community, in terms of what the school should provide or would provide, and so on? What was that like?
Yeah, really there was, and it was really varied as well. You had a group of parents who were so grateful for what you were offering. They could see how hard we were working, how you managed to control a class of 7-year-olds from your computer. But then at the flip side, you also had the parents who were feeling very frustrated at home, that they had to work and they had to spin all of their plates. So how could they possibly look after themselves and support their children? So I guess expectations were very varied, and I spent a lot of the time just on the phone with parents, just talking them through what can we do to help. We might have had several children just in a group working with LAs just to give some additional support. It was really about tailoring the experience for all of our students. And I'm sure everyone out there who's watching this today, who works in a school, can understand what I'm talking about.
I think one thing that I definitely felt at that time during lockdown was the way in which teachers all over the world kind of came together, and all that support that was going out there, and people supporting one another. I know that there was a variety of webinars hosted by lots of different organizations, edtech companies, individual consultants and people. Everybody just came out and said, look, we're here, we're happy to help. And I know when we did webinars, there was like, in the first lockdown, we're doing 6 webinars a day, and there was like 400 to 500 people from all over the world, from everywhere. You could not say that it's just from this country or that country. It was literally from everywhere, that just wanted to know, how do I do the best for my children at this moment in time? And they're exploring and they're looking at different platforms and so on. And for me, that's a testament to teachers all over the world, that mindset that they have, that they want to do the best, for their children, and so on. I think the one thing that I was always curious at that time was that, what was it like for teachers? Because they've got children as well. Their children are at school. They've got to look after children as well. And how did that work? How do we manage that? How did you kind of manage that well-being and all that kind of stuff for teachers?
Yeah, it was really difficult. I mean, we're so lucky. We have a wellbeing team in school, a team of staff, and we have a wellbeing team of students as well. And our wellbeing team came together and created wellbeing for Wilson. The Wilson, the ball from
Castaway. Yeah.
With the marks on it that he talked to. That was Tom Hanks's friend. That's what got him through this difficult time. And we have such a creative team of guys. So every week there was this publication of Wellbeing with Wilson, with some daft jokes and some little anecdotes and pictures and images of like the teacher trying to teach while trying to keep their kids entertained, and just reflecting what we're all doing, so that we could all feel that sense of when we're in this together, and the same team were the ones who did the quiz at the end of the week, and you had different teachers hosting different pub quiz type games, and it was a tough time, but coming together really did support us. So yeah, there was a definite sense of we need to support each other with this.
Emma, one thing that's kind of like, I suppose, an area of interest for me is that, in a lot of schools where technology has been introduced for a long time, and rightly so, parents always had those conversations about how do we keep children safe, is my child spending too much time on technology and so on. And I remember like when I visited you some time ago, we did those sessions with parents and so on, and they were well attended and they were asking some great questions around that and so on. Do you think that community, just wider community, and even parental attitudes towards technology have kind of changed or been impacted through this whole kind of their experience of COVID and lockdown and so on?
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, when I look back at my time at Stevenson, I think it was about 2012 that we brought in one-to-one devices. And I'll never forget sitting in the hall with the parents, and they were, the questions that they were asking, there was more of fear factor about it, more kind of unknown. And I think as time's evolved, that fear factor just seems to have got worse and worse and worse, because there's more scary things out there, isn't there? So, and more things that we're aware of. So when we'd had the lockdown, as you said before, Abdul, I work for a schools group called Cognita. They really focused on ensuring that there was access for all. And they noticed that when there was that initial lockdown, not all students had the same access to online learning, so not access to devices. And there was millions and millions of pounds invested in Cognita's ability to roll out one-to-one devices. So we came back in September, and within the first 2 weeks, BSB here, one of the first schools in Spain, we received an iPad for every child who was in year 3 to year 8, and a laptop for every single child who's in year 9 to year 11. And as you know, we're not a small school. There's over
a significant investment.
1,500 students across all 3 campuses. And that in itself, I mean, we weren't ready for it because we needed to get them out really quickly. Although we've been working on a digital strategy since 2017, 2018, this kind of came upon us. And because it came upon us with quite quickly, ordinarily you kind of prepare your parents if you know that you're going to have iPads following the summer, so you have your meetings in the July before you break up. Your children get to work with the iPads. You might do a few workshops. We didn't have time for that. We were really worried there was going to be another lockdown. We wanted all of the children to have this in place. So we worked brilliantly, and we had the whole of the Cognita team working in the background to make sure that there was a real slick transition to get them out. But there was still worry and concern, and the concern came back from the parents, especially the parents of the younger children, year 3, year 4. And you know what? We made a mistake. I think we made a mistake. We allowed the devices to just go straight home, and I think we listened to the parents, and there was real sort of panic, like, gosh, we don't have iPads at home. Why are you doing this to us? We've got our systems, our routines. The children have their screen time. So actually, I think one of the bravest things that we could do was write to the parents, go, absolutely, you're right. The iPads need to come back to school. Let's go through a program of intense digital citizenship training. Let's make sure that the parents feel much more comfortable with them at home. Year 5 and 6 were different because they'd had iPads and they were on the journey, and it was fine. But for those younger students, we wanted to make sure that the parents were comfortable with it. So all of those fears around technology, we did a survey. We sent it out, and the responses were amazing. And it was, one extreme to the other. Parents like, oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you. Now they're not on my computer, or they're not nicking my phone every 2 minutes. Yeah. And then at the other end of the spectrum is, I don't want you tracking and monitoring my child's data. I don't want them to have an iPad at home. We're really trying to reduce screen time. And so I'm really worried about them getting addicted to it. So we had all of these things to manage. And I think one of the best things we could have done is we set up a digital strategy committee So we kind of have the BSB digital strategy, but then we also have a strand of this which looks at the community. And so within this committee, we have a handful of parents who've got a vested interest, A, because their children are at school, but B, because they have a variety of different jobs in the world, you know, with some of them are quite globally linked, some of them are local. And these are the parents who are dealing with this at home. So we also have in that the teachers in the committee, we have some learning assistants, and we have senior leadership. And it's a really kind of powerful group in the sense that we can say, okay, we're faced with these issues and how are we going to address them? So it created a big long list of actions that we need to do. And one of them was make sure that we've got great tracking and monitoring in. So we put light speed in on all of the devices, which came as part of the Cognita package, but we really quickly learned how to use it. We started auditing the iPads, sharing that with the parents. They love to see their little checklist. Okay, they've been doing all right with their camera, and there's nothing on Teams chat that they shouldn't have. Right. We've worked relentlessly on that digital strategy committee curriculum. We put top tips in our weekly reminders for parents. You know, if you're worried about addiction, if you're worried about screen time, some go-tos. We've created a parent app with a digital zone, so any parents can either go in and watch a webinar that we might have done just as you did when you were here. So just lots and lots of things around trying to alleviate the concerns and to go, yeah, do you know what? Screen time is bad. It can be bad if you're not a creative user of technology. So how do we strike the balance? So hopefully we've got quite a pragmatic approach to it all.
And I suppose like coming back to what you said right at the beginning, in many ways, these are concerns that it doesn't matter if the schools in North Tyneside or the schools in, you know, Barcelona and it's fee paying. These are parental concerns generally with technology around the world. And, you know, it can be a scary thing. And there isn't really anywhere where parents can go very easily to kind of learn about this or to become a lot more savvy with it or to understand what that looks like. I know I kind of shared this with you in the past, but the World Economic Forum put out that whole kind of that piece of work, and an article it was on digital intelligence and what does that look like, you know, and so on. And I think it's an important aspect potentially for schools to be able to kind of support parents with, you know.
And that guidance from the World Economic Forum is we've always got our eye on that, haven't we? As educators and as leaders, we need to keep our eye on those future skills. We've done a lot of work on the back of some work we did with Professor Guy Claxton around learning habits and looking at the future skills that are needed for jobs in 2030. Are we preparing them right? And technology only forms a small part of that, doesn't it? So it's just making sure, as they are referred to as the soft skills, which I don't particularly like, but that's what they are. These are the things that we're keeping our eye on. So parents can't really argue against, that's the wrong phrasing, but they need to understand that if in order to get your child there in 2030, these are the things that we're going to need to do and instill in them now. So yeah, we've always got an eye on that list, the future skills list.
That's good. So tell me about kind of like next steps. What are you working on now? What's your kind of key focus? You know, what's BSB gonna look like in the next 12 months, 6 months, you know? What's on your plate?
Yeah, so we've kind of moved away from dealing with all of the Teams chat issues and the parents ringing saying they're doing this and that in their own time. And we've got more of a shift to the children having more ownership over their learning, more personalised learning. I think one thing that COVID did teach us is that we've had to think creatively and we've had to think outside the box. And it's been really easy, or it would have been really easy this year to say we can't do things because of COVID or because of the restrictions, we can't do that. But the staff have been super creative in trying to find ways around that. And I don't want to lose that creativity. And I think for us, our digital strategy kind of moving on into this next year is very much around ticking the box. We're reviewing it at the minute, actually, actually, we're able to sign a lot of the things off because they were more kind of administerial or making sure that we had the systems and the protocols in place. Now I think we can really focus on making teaching learning as creative as possible and building that into sort of a real project approach. For me, that's what I want to see the staff to just give them the artistic license, give them that freedom to take risks and see where that goes in the classroom. That's really important.
That's fantastic. That's really, really good. So just kind of like, we've only got like 5 minutes left. Yeah. So just kind of, what kind of, are you still doing collaborative work with like other schools in the region, globally, other places? What does that kind of collaboration element look like? Post-COVID, kind of where we are now, maybe stuff that you were doing before COVID as well?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have a training budget, and actually this year, it's hardly been spent because everything's online now. So it's incredible that our staff have been able to attend so many more sessions or so much more interconnecting kind of in terms of their Twitter experiences. They're connecting with people. So we've got so much going on. We've got different people connecting with different themes. So we're part of Cognita. We have a group of schools in Spain. So we're able to connect and work together. We're doing moderation with our colleagues in BSB Sitges, which is a separate campus to us, and that'll be a full training session tonight, this week, rather than spending half of it travelling from one venue to the other. So for us, we've got lots of connections. We're taking part in a UCL project around the use of technology and how it's used to give feedback and assessment. So we've got a research group of teachers in school who are connected with that. We're continuously working with our digital leaders, and they are connecting with digital leaders in other schools. And we've linked up with ICT Evangelist. Mark's been giving us some support around helping us to address some of those issues. Quite interesting. One of the parents was like, can you help us to understand social media? Because all it seems is that I always have a negative conversation with my child around social media, and I want to turn that into a positive conversation, but I need to understand it. These guys are now, a group of our Nexus students, our pre-university students, are making a video to share to parents, to showcase the benefits of social media. So we're trying to connect with experts and specialists across the globe, really.
Fantastic. And look, we've got literally 2.5 minutes left, right? So my last and final question to you: if you had an infinite budget, what would you do for education and why?
Okay, I love that. And I like that it's not about technology as well. Okay, so let's just focus on teaching then. Can I be really selfish and say that I'm going to build a dream school? Okay, so I'm not looking globally, but I kind of am. So if I have a dream school perspective, but imagine that it's a prototype for many replica schools across the globe. Okay, so for me, I really would look at the learning environment, and I'd build like a super school with loads of flexible learning spaces for students to work independently, closed classrooms, open classrooms, individual. The learning spaces would be so innovative and creative and inspire creativity. So I guess I'd focus on that. I'd really want to give my teachers quality time to plan, to review, to put the resources in so they can have that time to collaborate with others across the world, and come up with an amazing professional learning plan so that we can connect globally. So if they just wanted to pop to America for a week and connect with somebody or who have we got going to Finland this year, I would love to offer those kind of opportunities to the staff, because I think that's really what grows our teachers and brings that excitement into school. And it has to be about the experiences for the kids. So imagine you had loads of money, you could bring in the experts, bring in an astronaut who's just been part of a space program with NASA, bring them over, get them working with the kids, talking to the kids, and just making experiences memorable for our kids. I think for me, the education is the most memorable part of your whole life and your experience.
Absolutely. The experiences are the things that you kind of remember. As adults now, if we think about school, we remember experiences, you know,
Yeah, you do.
rather than slides or PowerPoints or something that might have been put up on screen. So experiences are absolutely something that people will kind of connect with. Emma, thank you very much for making the time. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, your approaches, your experiences. Thank you very much for being part of Learning Redefined 2021. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've loved it. Thank you, Abdul. Thanks, everyone.